it's a lot of fun for me. Lindsey Scott, I remember I had a part-time job. I was getting ready to go to work. I said, well, let me wait maybe 5 minutes. He makes the catch, scores a touchdown. I ended up in a Sugar Bowl that year, 1980, watched Georgia win the national championship. So it's exciting for me to have him here, and the book is terrific. So I hope afterwards they're gonna be back there with copies of the book. So appreciate them being here.
Thank y'all for having me here today. Unfortunately, I think Lindsey is having some car troubles. I know he's on his way, but coming from Valdosta, I have had a difficult time contacting him today, and I think he's having some car problems. So, hopefully he'll walk in before everything's over and done with, but if he doesn't, my apologies. I do appreciate y'all asking me here today. This is by far the biggest Rotary Club I've ever seen, and I've been to a lot of places around the state. Y'all do it right. Very impressed with the turnout, and David was telling me, he said, I said, is this your usual turnout? And he said, yeah. And he said, well, we've had governors and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other speaking. I was like, man, I hope y'all didn't take a notch down today, but I appreciate everybody coming out. Before I go any further, I have to give all the credit for being here to Jesus Christ. He has patterned my life. He is all of him. The book wouldn't have been written without him. I wouldn't be standing in front of you without his hand on my life. For me to be able to contact as many of these people as I was able to is part of his life plan for me. Working at the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, it made it very easy for me to get in touch with a lot of these individuals. It's just not coincidence. And being in the 9th grade when this took place, for a kid who was dyed-in-the-wool Georgia fan running around the house as Lindsey Scott was running down the sidelines, to come to this point where I'm speaking to y'all after interviewing all these people, getting to know Lindsey well, it's just not coincidence. So I have to thank the Lord for being here today. Elements to a great game, just like a great book, there's elements to what makes it great. And for a great game, you have to have drama, peaks and valleys. Whoever's coached high school football on a Friday night, there's peaks and valleys. Unfortunately, last night, there was peaks and valleys at Turner Field. We're stuck in the valley until March. So, but there's peaks and valleys to every great game, great contest. And if you remember back to 1980, I mean, that was a roller coaster of a ball game. And then you have to have heroes and tragic figures. And, riding up here thinking, great books. Shakespeare has heroes and tragic figures all the time. And you have to have it in a great contest, a great sporting event. Thankfully that day, Florida was the tragic figure. If it happened, we wouldn't have won the national title. So, but unfortunately, we've been the tragic figure many times the last 20 years. So, and also there has to be fantastic finishes. Just down the road, old Fulton County Stadium, slow-footed Sid Bream slides into home plate, and we win the National League pennant in '92. Fantastic finish. And the thing is with this game, it's the greatest finish of all. Georgia can win 10 more national championships, in my opinion. There will never be a greater moment, a greater game, and a greater finish as to 1980 Georgia-Florida. And after we play Larry Munson and his call and the play, then I'll give you an explanation of how I think of it through the book.
Back third down on the 8, in trouble. Got a block behind him. Gonna throw on a run, complete to the 25, to the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 40. Lindsey's got 45, 50, 45, 40. One, Lindsey, 25, 20, 50, 10, 5. Lindsey stop, Lindsey stop, Lindsey stop. Well, I can't believe it. 92 yards, and Lindsey really got in a foot race. I broke my chair. I came right through a chair. A metal steel chair with about a 5-inch cushion. I broke it. The roof came apart. The stadium fell down. Now they do have to renovate this thing. They'll have to rebuild it now. called the world's greatest cocktail party. Do you know what is going to happen here tonight? And up in St. Simon's and Jekyll Island and all those places where all those dog people have got these condominiums for 4 days. Man, there's going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26 to 21. Dogs on top. We were gone. I gave up. You did too. We were out of it and gone. Miracle.
Never gets old. Always brings chill bumps to me. And yesterday was Larry's 89th birthday, so it's kind of fitting that we listen to that just after his birthday. The 1980 Georgia-Florida game is more than a game, and it's more than a great touchdown. I've talked to a lot of people across the state speaking since the book came out last September, and they say it's one of the defining moments of their life. Many people do. They say, me getting married, the birth of my kids, the death of a parent or loved one, and then they go and blue to sky. And it kind of sounds crazy, but even non-sports events that kind of sear into your mind, think back to those events in your life that you remember where you were. Everybody remembers where they were in 9/11. There's many people in here who will remember where they were when JFK was shot. Just those memories, whether good, bad, whatever they might be, you remember where you were. And everybody, I'd probably say 98% of the people I've spoken with, they remember where they were. And it means something to them. And let me give you a few examples of why, and we'll go through the book. And as we go through the book, I think you'll understand a little bit better. How does a book come to be? Has anyone in here ever written a book? Okay, well, if you want to ever write a book, lean on somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, I've written a lot of articles and this, that, and the other, but I had no clue as to what I was doing as far as writing a book. And again, through my experience at the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, I got to know Tony Barnhart, who wrote many years for the AJC and is now on 790 The Zone. Very good friend, and you know, he really tutored me in what I needed to do. Also, Bert Sugar. If you ever watch ESPN Classic, Bert is the older gentleman with the fedora on and the half a cigar hanging out of his mouth. He's like a comic book character come to life. And he came down to one of our events at the Sports Hall of Fame. And so I called both of these guys up. I said, look, this is the idea I have. Between them, I think they've probably written 60 books or something along those lines. And a couple of things they told me is they said, you need to write the book. Each chapter is a different story. They said that everything will end up locking together at the end, but each chapter is a different story, and that really helped me out because, you know, writing an article, you have a lead, and then you know, a hook at the start, and then you have to kind of wrap it up at the end, and that's what you do. At least that's what I did in each chapter of this book, and it seemed to work out well. So if you ever plan on writing a book, it takes a lot of time. People ask me what was the dullest part of it. You know, the interviews were great, the research was fantastic, the transcription was a nightmare. I mean, you know, you interview all these people and then you have to sit down, you have to transcribe everything. So that is the toughest part, but it must be done for you to be able to get all the information that you need to really sew everything together in the book to make it go. I wanted to take this book and tell the story of the game and the play and the event and the legacy through the eyes of other people. I talked with, I forget her first name, Miss Smith, her husband. There you are back there. A great story about what her husband did after the game, which I don't know if she wants me to tell it publicly or not, but she can. You can go ask her afterwards. It's classic, and she's going to get her husband to email that to me because I'm still gathering stories from that day, so I can, when we update the book in a few years, to have those. But I really wanted to go deeper in this book. You know, I knew I was at home, but I always wondered, I guess it's from working at a Sports Hall of Fame and in a museum and loving history, you know, how did other people see it? You know, how did you see it? How did y'all out there see it? How did the officials on the field see it? We interviewed 2 officials who were on the field, and we get their insight as to how they saw the play, because they didn't see it like I did. They didn't see it like Coach Dooley did, or even the players on the field. And so we were able to interview players and coaches from both teams, able to interview media members, fans who were in the stands, fans who were not there at all. And it really gives you a good idea as to what people were doing at the time. And again, hardly anybody ever forgets where they were when the play took place. One of the great contacts that I had through my experience at the Sports Hall of Fame was able to use for this book in talking about interviewing people from other teams. Mike Shanahan, who is now the Washington Redskins head coach, he was the offensive coordinator for Florida that day. I did not know that until I was doing some research. I was a pack rat growing up. I still happen to have most everything I'd say from that 1980 season. In fact, I taped all the games off the radio that year, and I must have listened to that, Munson's call of the game numerous times to take notes of the game. But as I was looking through the program, I see, well, gosh, Mike Shanahan. And I was like, I've got to get Coach Shanahan. I mean, he's the biggest name that I can get from that team. And so I called a friend of mine he lives here in Atlanta. He's an agent for NFL players. And I said, hey, look, that's what I'm doing. I need to talk to Shanahan bad. And you're about the only person who can get me in touch with him. He said, I'll do what I can. A couple of days later, he texts me his cell phone number. And at the end of the cell phone number, he says, do not tell him where you got this. And I was kind of like, no problem. So I was about 15, 20 minutes away from home one day, and I said, well, it's time to call Coach Shanahan, see what's going to happen. So I give him a call, and he's not there, and I leave him a message on his cell phone. And I thought, well, look, I told him, I said, hey, I can't tell you where I got this from. I promised the guy I wouldn't, so if you don't call back, I understand. 15 minutes later, I'm driving into the driveway at home, 303 area code. This is when he still lived in Colorado. He called, it's Shanahan on the other line. I about dropped the phone. And he said, I remember exactly. He said, 3rd and 11, play action pass to Lindsey Scott. I mean, for a guy who had won 2 Super Bowls and he's a legendary coach going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, he remembers this play. And that, to me, right there, sold me on the fact that other than knowing I really felt like the Lord wanted me to do this, that really imprinted that everybody remembers where they were. And he also told me, he said the one thing he can never change in his coaching career is that he was 0-4 against Georgia. So, but as I said, we wanted to go a little deeper with the book. And so what I did was, the one thing that Barnhart and Sugar told me to do, they said, build a history of the rivalry. So we built a history of the rivalry. Then I built a history of both teams that season. Neither team was supposed to really be that good. I mean, Georgia was ranked in the top 20 at the start of the year, but they were kind of missing a piece of the puzzle.